No, a lot of people ask me about that and say, what's the secret of Mrs. Brown? And I don't know if there is any secret about Mrs. Brown. She's an old cow. I ought to think that she's at an age where she doesn't care what she said. Imagine British comedy without Mrs. Brown's boys. Hard to picture, isn't it? Whether you love it or hate it, this sitcom stormed onto TV screens in 2011 and became one of the UK and Ireland's most watched comedies with its wild humor, cheeky one-liners, and deliberately old-fashioned style. It was loud, brash, and completely different from anything else on air. But as the show grew into a cultural phenomenon, something else happened. Some of its key cast members left. Some exits were quiet, while others stirred up controversy. Fans were left wondering, were the departures due to creative disagreements, personal rifts, or something deeper? Let's dive into the real reasons behind these departures and how they changed the show forever. Before it became a BBC One hit, Mrs. Brown's boys had humbler beginnings. Back in the early 1990s, Brendan O'Carroll was a stand-up comic and struggling writer in Ireland. Inspired by the strong-willed women he grew up around, he created Agnes Brown, a sharp-tongued Dublin mammy with a soft heart. Under all that said, Agnes first appeared in a radio play, and later in O'Carroll's self-published book, The Mammy. That book inspired a stage play, and when the original actress for the role failed to appear one night, Brendan threw on a wig and dress and played Agnes himself. Audiences loved it. That accident gave birth to the character who would define his career. The stage plays became cult favorites in Ireland and the UK. They weren't polished or pretentious. In fact, their charm lay in the chaos. Fluffed lines were laughed off. Actors broke character to joke with the audience, and the humor felt raw and real. For many working-class audiences, this was comedy that reflected their lives, only louder and cheekier. It wasn't until 2011 that the BBC adapted the stage plays into a TV sitcom, shot in front of a live audience and deliberately keeping mistakes like visible microphones or forgotten lines. The series felt more like theater than polished TV. Critics hated it, dismissing the humor as outdated and crude. But audiences loved it. Part of that magic came from the cast itself because it really was a family affair. Brendan's wife, Jennifer Gibney, played Kathy. His daughter, Fiona, played Maria. His son Danny took the role of Dermot and his sister Isish played Winnie. McCougan. This closeness gave the series warmth and authenticity, but it also meant that personal and family tensions sometimes spilled into work. Despite the critics, Mrs. Brown's Boys grew into a comedy empire. The show toured arenas across the UK and Australia. Annual Christmas specials drew record-breaking audiences, and in 2014, a feature film, Mrs. Brown's Boys to Movie, hit cinemas. There were books, DVDs, and merchandise. Brendan O'Carroll had created not just a sitcom, but a brand. Yet, as the years went on, the cracks began to show. Long-standing cast members began to leave, each departure changing the show's chemistry. Fiona O'Carroll, Brendan's real-life daughter, was one of the first significant departures. She had been with the show from its earliest stage days in the 1990s, playing Maria Brown, Dermot's wife and Agnes' daughter-in-law. Maria wasn't the loudest or funniest character, but she was vital in a household of chaos. She was the grounded one, the calm in the storm. So, when Fiona announced in 2022 that she wouldn't be joining the next Live tour, fans were shocked. Her reason was personal. After more than a decade playing Maria, Fiona explained, "I felt like I was living someone else's story. I needed to write my own." She wanted more time with her children and to build a life outside of Agnes Brown's fictional living room. There was no family feud. Brendan made it clear he supported his daughter's choice, proudly saying, "She's my daughter first, not just Maria." Stu. Her absence left a noticeable gap. Without Maria, the Brown household felt even more chaotic. One less voice of reason in the madness. Few exits hit harder than Rory Cowan's in 2017. Rory had been with Mrs. Brown's Boys for decades. First, as Brendan's publicist before stepping into the role of Agnes's son, Rory Brown. With his bleached hair, flamboyant style, and quick wit, Rory became a fan favorite. His chemistry with Brendan was electric, and he added sparkle to every scene. So why leave? Rory revealed that it wasn't because of fights or creative disagreements. The truth was much more personal. After years of caring for his elderly mother, while touring with the show, he admitted that he no longer enjoyed performing. "I was sad on the show, I didn't enjoy it. I needed to go," he said. His departure was handled quietly, but fans noticed. Rory's character was recast with Dominic McCernan, but many viewers struggled to accept the change. After leaving, Rory found new success on the Irish soap Fair City and released a memoir, Mrs. Cowan's Boy, opening up about his life, his sexuality, and his years with the show. But for fans, Rory Cowan will always be remembered as the original Rory Brown. Flamboyant, joyful, and unforgettable. If Rory's exit was sad, Gary Hollywood's departure in 2020 was explosive. Gary played Dino Doyle, the fabulous hairdresser, and Partner of Rory Brown, Dino's flamboyant charm and comedic timing made him a scene stealer, and his partnership with Rory was beloved. But in 2020, Dino vanished from the show with no explanation. Fans later learned Gary had left over a pay dispute. He claimed he and Daman McKiran, the new Rory, were being paid less than other cast members for the Christmas specials. When he raised concerns, he said he was dropped from future episodes. Gary later took legal action, accusing the production of unfair dismissal and discrimination. Brendan O'Carroll denied the claims, calling it a misunderstanding, but the damage was done. For a show that had built its image on being a family, the dispute painted a very different picture. Without Dino, the show lost one of its brightest sparks. His absence was felt in every scene that used to rely on his flamboyant energy. Jennifer Gibney, Brendan's wife, has played Kathy Brown, Agnes's daughter, since the beginning. Kathy, the level-headed psychologist, was often the straight character amid the chaos. Her dry wit, a perfect contrast to Agnes' antics. But over the years, Kathy began to fade into the background. By the mid-2010s, fans noticed she was appearing less and less. Rumors spread that perhaps Brendan was writing his wife out of the show, but the truth was far simpler. Jennifer herself explained that both she and Brendan agreed to scale Kathy back. They felt her storylines had run their course, and reducing her role allowed more space for other characters. There was no drama, just a creative decision. Still, her reduced presence left the show missing one of its steadying voices. Without Kathy, the balance tilted even more toward slapstick and farce. When Damien McKernan stepped into the role of Rory Brown after Rory Cowan's exit, he faced an impossible task. A former Mr. Ireland with limited acting experience, Damien had to fill the shoes of a beloved character. His Rory was quieter and less flamboyant, which divided audiences. Some adjusted to the change, but many fans never truly accepted him in the role. Then, in 2020, Damien also disappeared from the show. Reports suggested that he, like Gary Hollywood, had raised concerns about unequal pay. Brendan denied any unfair treatment, but Damon's exit, like Gary's, left a shadow over the show's image. Over the years, Mrs. Brown's Boys has lost several key cast members, each departure reshaping the show in different ways. From Fiona O'Carroll's quiet decision to focus on her family to Rory Cowan's heartfelt exit to the more turbulent departures of Gary Hollywood and Daman McKernan, each story reflects the human side of television. For Brendan O'Carroll, what began as a last-minute stage performance grew into one of the UK and Ireland's most enduring sitcoms. But as the cast has changed, so too has the show. Whether you laugh at it or cringe at it, there's no denying Mrs. Brown's Boys remains a cultural force, loud, old-fashioned, and defiantly its own. Now, it's your turn. Which departure from Mrs. Brown's Boys shocked you the most, and why? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out more behind-scenes tales from the world of television.